One quick glance across a silent room hides deep secrets. Does looking away mean hidden attraction, complete boredom, or a subtle psychological mind game beginning? The heavy rain crashed against the thick glass window. Outside, the gray city streets were completely empty. Inside the small warm cafe, soft yellow light fell from old hanging lamps. The air smelled of dark roasted coffee and wet coats. In the back corner, Alden sat alone. He wrapped his cold hands around a thick ceramic mug. Steam rose from the hot tea, blurring his vision. Alden was a quiet man. He spent his life watching people from a distance, trying to understand them. Human emotions were a broken puzzle to him. He always felt invisible, carrying a deep, heavy loneliness that never faded. Across the narrow room sat a stranger. She wore a thick silver scarf wrapped tightly around her neck. Her dark coat was still wet from the storm outside. She stared out the window, looking deeply lost in her own thoughts. The cafe was completely silent except for the sound of the rain and the soft humming of the coffee machine. Alden slowly lifted his eyes from his warm mug. He looked at her. He did not mean to stare, but a deep sadness in her posture drew his attention. Suddenly, she turned her head. Her gaze snapped directly to him. For a split second, they locked eyes. Alden felt a sharp spike of panic in his chest. His heart beat faster. Someone caught him looking. The silence in the dimly lit room suddenly felt thick and heavy. Alden froze. He waited for her reaction, remembering the hidden rules of human behavior. He knew the sudden direction of a person's eyes told the truth about their soul. At first, she instantly looked down at the dark wooden table. Her shoulders relaxed a little. Alden remembered reading about this exact movement. Looking down quickly was a clear sign of submissive attraction. It meant she felt shy, perhaps a little intimidated. A tiny spark of warmth fluttered in Alden's chest. Did she feel a connection too? Was she just as lonely? A few slow minutes passed. The rain poured harder against the glass. Alden took a slow sip of his tea and dared to look at her again. This time, she was already looking at him. When their eyes met, she immediately glanced sideways toward the old wooden door. The warmth in Alden's chest turned instantly cold. A sideways glance. He knew exactly what that meant. Indifference, extreme boredom. She wanted to escape his gaze. The heavy weight of rejection settled over his tired shoulders. His emotional pain returned, sharper this time. He pulled his dark jacket tighter around his body, feeling foolish and deeply embarrassed. The tension inside his mind was a painful struggle between sudden hope and familiar despair. He decided to leave the cafe. He reached into his pocket for some coins to pay for his drink. He stood up slowly, his wooden chair scraping loudly against the stone floor. Before turning toward the exit, he looked across the dimly lit room one last time. She was staring right at him. This time she did not look down at the table. She did not look sideways at the door. She locked her bright eyes completely with his. The soft yellow light from the ceiling lamp caught the deep intensity in her expression. For 3 long seconds, the emotional tension in the room completely stopped time. Then, very slowly, she turned her head and looked away. It was a deliberate, slow movement, a silent challenge, the ultimate psychological mind game. Alden stood completely still by his empty table. Warm steam drifted into the cold air between them. His mind raced with heavy confusion and a rising, intense curiosity. The cafe door stood only 10 steps away. It offered the familiar comfort of the cold, empty street. For his entire life, Alden had chosen the door. He always chose to walk away, hiding safely inside his quiet, lonely world. But the slow, deliberate turn of the stranger's head anchored his feet to the stone floor. He stared at her sitting in the dim corner. The soft yellow light cast gentle shadows across her thick silver scarf. She was looking out the rain-streaked window again, but her posture had entirely changed. She no longer looked lost or deeply sad. She looked expectant. Alden's heart pounded a heavy rhythm against his ribs. The psychological rule echoed clearly in his mind. If they lock eyes and slowly look away, they are playing a game. It was not a game of cruelty or manipulation. It was a silent, daring invitation. It was a quiet test to see if he had the courage to bridge the terrifying distance between 2 lonely islands. His hand tightened around the cold coins in his pocket. Fear whispered loudly in his ears, begging him to leave. What if his mind was playing tricks on him? What if the intense look meant she wanted him to stay away? The crushing weight of potential embarrassment made his breathing shallow and quick. He looked at the heavy wooden exit door. and then back at her quiet figure. In that quiet moment, he realized a hard truth. True loneliness was not just the absence of people, it was the absence of courage. If he walked out that door right now, the heavy gray clouds outside would mirror his internal world forever. He would spend the rest of his life wondering what that lingering look truly meant. Alden slowly pulled his hand out of his pocket. He let his dark jacket fall loosely around his shoulders. He took one step forward. The stone floor slightly creaked beneath his wet boots. The hissing sound of the coffee machine felt incredibly loud, but Alden only heard his own rushing heartbeat. Step by step, he crossed the narrow room. Every second stretched out, feeling like an hour. The warm, comforting scent of dark roasted coffee wrapped around him as he closed the distance. He finally stopped right beside her small wooden table. The silence between them felt thick and electric. For a brief, terrifying moment, doubt tried to pull him backward. But then, she slowly turned her head. She looked up at him. There was no glancing down in shy submission. There was no darting sideways in cold indifference. Her bright eyes locked onto his, completely open, warm, and wonderfully vulnerable. A soft, genuine smile appeared on her face, instantly breaking all the painful tension that had filled the dim room. "I was wondering," she said softly, her gentle voice barely rising above the sound of the falling rain, "if you were ever going to walk over." In that single beautiful moment, the heavy, invisible wall that Alden had built around himself for years shattered completely. The psychological rules he had memorized to protect himself no longer mattered. He pulled out the empty wooden chair across from her and sat down. He finally understood the deepest secret of human behavior. Eye contact is not just a silent tool to read someone's mind. It is a fragile, terrifying bridge built between two souls. We look away fast out of pure fear. We look sideways out of cold disconnect. But when we bravely hold that gaze, we are finally asking the world to truly see us. Sometimes, the greatest emotional transformation of your entire life begins with a single, lingering glance across a quiet room. If this story helped you understand the hidden power of human connection, please leave a gentle like and always find the courage to hold their gaze.